Hey guys, since we're learning about water, I wanted to share with you a book about floating and sinking. And you'll find that this is one of our nonfiction favorites. Remember, this is an informative type of book. So this is called Floating and Sinking by Karen Bryant-Mole. Floating, let's talk about that first. The boy in this boat is moving through water without getting wet. This is because his boat floats. Anything that stays at the top of the water is said to float. Now take a look at this. Small sailing boats are called dinghies. I like that name. Now this is a see for yourself. Let's see. Brian wanted to find out some things that could float. He tested many different things by placing them in a bowl of water. He found 5 things that could float. Now, I want you to keep in mind that this is something you can do at home too. So let's talk about sinking then too. When something that cannot float is put into water, it sinks. This anchor can't float. It is sunk to the bottom of the water. Take a look at that. You see that chain? What do you think might be on the end of that chain? We've got an anchor here, but what's on the other end? All right, so let's look at this friend. Melissa is testing some things to see which float and which sink. She has put them into 2 groups. Can you guess which group floats and which group sinks? Brian's test, the one we just looked at, will give you a clue. Take a look. She's got quite a bit of stuff here, huh? What makes some things float and some things sink? Size could be important, but look, this large boat and this small boat both float. And just to keep in mind, a large stone and a small stone would both sink. So here's another test. Jessica has done a test with objects that are about the same size and shape. She has discovered that some float and some sink. Size might be important, but it can't be the only thing that matters. Ooh, heaviness has got to be in it. Whether or not something can float could have to do with how much it weighs. Heavy things might sink, and light things might float. But look, this log and these leaves both float. Which one of those do you think is heavier? And then it says, logs are much heavier than leaves. True. Another test. Adam is testing some objects that all weigh about the same. He thought they would all float or all sink, but some float and some sink. So weight might be important, but it can't be the only thing that matters. So we've talked about size and weight. Let's see what else we have to think. Pushing water. Ooh. To understand why things float, we need to know what happens when something is put in water. When the plates were put into this bowl, they pushed the water out of the way to make space for themselves. This is a big word. Remember this one. It is called displacement. And you say displacement? So looking at that, where do you think the displaced water has gone? Alex carefully filled 2 pitchers with water. She put a large stone into one pitcher. Water was displaced into a cup right in front of the pitcher. When she tried this with a smaller stone, less water was displaced. Now water pushes back. As these tree trunks roll into the water, they push the water out of the way to make rooms for themselves. The water pushes back, trying to get back into the space it was in. Now, if the water pushes back strongly enough, an object will float. Let's see for ourselves. So Jonathan here put a ping pong ball into a glass of water. He's trying to push it down under the water. He can feel the water that is being pushed out of the way, pushing back. All right, let's go under the water. So look at this boat. You don't often get to see it like that. This boat has been taken out of the water. You can see that much of the boat is usually under the water. The boat is a big shape for the water to push against. Now, the more of something there is for water to push against, the more likely it is to float. Isn't that neat? So, usually when you would see this boat, you might see some of this black part and the name of it. Maybe up to there, but all of that red is generally underwater. So, Brian here found 2 pieces of clay that were both the same weight. So he rolled one into a ball, and he made the other into a boat shape. The ball-shaped piece sinks. The boat-shaped piece floats because the clay is spread out into a big shape. There's more clay for the water to push against. So materials also make a big part. Whether something floats or sinks depends on both its weight and its size. This sailboard is big, but it's very light, and so it floats. Something that is light for its size is more likely to float than something that is heavy for its size. This is a neat one. So Melissa found that the material that things are made of is important. Things made of solid wood or styrofoam seem to float more easily than things made of solid metal or stone. Look at this one. This huge ship is made of metal. If it was made of solid metal, it would sink. But most of the space inside the ship is full of air. Air makes things light for their size, and it helps them to float. So let's see for ourselves here. Billy is testing some bath toys. He's found that many of them are hollow. Hollow things aren't empty. They're full of air. And then some materials soak up water. If something soaks up a lot of water, it may sink. This boat has a special paint on it. It stops the water from soaking into the wood underneath. Materials that do not soak up water are called waterproof. I bet you could find some waterproof things around your house. Alex here floated pieces of cardboard, fabric, plastic, and foil on water. She wanted to find out which materials were waterproof. A few hours later, both the cardboard and the fabric had soaked up water and sunk. I'd love to see if you guys could make a list of things around your house that you found did float, did sink, maybe what surprised you. Thanks for sharing.